Technology alone isn't going to improve students' achievement. The best combination is great teachers working with technology to engage students in the pursuit of the learning they need. That was a quote by U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan, which clearly emphasizes the importance of teachers to embrace technology because it allows them to make a greater impact as innovators and early adapters. ICT infuses classrooms with digital learning tools such as computers and handheld devices, expand course offerings, experiences, and learning materials. It supports learning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and build 21st century skills. So, hi! This is Group 5, and it's a lesson that we plan to share with all of you today. So, welcome to our journey of the subject Technology for Teaching and Learning from Group 5 of BIT Main. Before anything else, let me introduce to you my team, the group's facilitator, yours truly, Landy Neron, taking Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Social Studies. Feline Kabiling, Jelimay Marie Patak, from Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. Next in line, Joy Maria Liba, Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Biological Science. Then, Loida Edilsa, BS Ed, majoring in Social Studies. Alma May Misiona and Maricel Salomon, major in English. And to complete the pack, we have Jovelyn Yungot from BS Ed, major in Filipino. Pressing on, this video lesson will be centered on this topic, ICT in various content areas. Here we have two main topics. First, ICT and conventional learning materials to enhance teaching and learning. It has two subtopics, digital learning resources like Google Docs, SurveyMonkey, and others. Then, conventional learning resources like Flipcharts, Realia, and many more. Then we'll also cover distance learning, types of online distance learning, asynchronous and synchronous. The lesson outcome in this video lesson are that students are expected to first understand the role of ICT in various content areas. Next, recognize and explore each of the resources to enhance both the teaching and learning. Then, learn steps or ways how to create and effectively use different learning resources, both coming from conventional and digital learning resources. Then, identify the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. So, a question in mind, how is ICT used in different areas? ICT, or the shortened word for Information and Communication Technology, is used in most of the fields such as education, agriculture, medicine, defense, e-governance, e-commerce, banking, transportation, and many more. With the advances in technology, computing infrastructure, and the need to automate and reduce cycle times, ICT is playing a vital role. ICTs are continually growing at a rapid rate. It has changed the way we think about teaching and learning. Exploring the 21st century classroom and the new technological teaching approaches has been an eye-opening experience. We have evolved from conventional learning resources to digital learning resources. Now, we can easily and effectively enhance the quality of education in several ways. The best example of this is our current situation. We all know that we have been disrupted by COVID-19. We do not see each other often. Important institutions such as schools are closed. So we make good use of Google Classrooms, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Zoom, and many more important platforms. One click to Google and you will know answer to everything. One click to YouTube and you will find videos and tutorials of academic discussions. We see that technology impacted what we teach, how we teach, and where we teach. ICTs have the power to both personalize teaching and learning, opening student minds and be subject to flexibility. Thus, as technology evolves, so is our ways. So it is essential that learners and teachers adapt their learning and teaching methods accordingly and must be competent enough in the use of these learning resources because it has been at the very core of every aspect in our daily life. And this will be the central theme of our talk today.
Good day everyone, I am Feline B. Kabiling, a second-year student taking a Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English. For this session, Jelomai and I will be talking about digital learning resources. Now, what are digital learning resources? The term digital learning resources, or in short terms can also be called as DLRs, refer to digital resources such as applications or apps, software, programs, or websites that engage students in learning activities and support students' learning goals. By that, digital learning resources allows a classroom to step up its game and be interactive, creating an easy access to various of knowledge through the different digital learning resources available online. And through the different digital resources which I have mentioned earlier, which are the apps, software, programs, or websites. And I believe that most of us are familiar of what these digital resources are, right? Since they are a product of technology, which we currently use nowadays, especially in this modern era. Digital learning resources have been used way back then by teachers, professionals, and even students, like us, who are tasked to report in front of their classroom. And that is what I am currently doing right now. So, as what I have said, DLRs has already been existing way back then. However, recently the use of the DLRs have increased due to the improved accessibility of the various learning resources available digitally, or because of the improvement of technologies, and perhaps due to our current setup in this pandemic, where instead of manually looking up for resources to learn or share, we tend to look up online. Now, what are inside these digital learning resources? These materials consist of a wide variety of digitally formatted resources, including graphics, images, or photos. So why does a digital learning resources includes the use of graphics, images, or photos? It is because graphics, images, or photos is used to create visuals of a person or object that is related to the topic. And also, they are used as a design in order to catch the eyes of the audience, in order for them to listen well with what the presenter is talking about or what the topic is all about. So the second one is we have the audio. There are also times when teachers or the presenters will include some voice clips or music in order to share a better understanding of what their topic is. For example, in music, how come a teacher would be able to give the best of her discussion regarding certain music or a song if she is not able to present it in class manually, especially if they are not talented in singing? Therefore, in order to present it, in order for them to share it in the class, they must look for an alternative that can only be found through online. And so, they would include that to the presentation that they would make. And that allows audio to play an important role in digital learning resources. Now let's move to simulations. They are used in order to predict an outcome. Thus, when it is put inside a digital learning resources, expect that most of them are in a form of a chart or graph, in order to properly present the results of the choices made. However, its original function is to offer insight into fundamental mechanisms that govern a system's behavior. Therefore, it is used to assess what should be done in order to carry a successful presentation, such as through a survey. However, regardless of how simulations are used, either it is put inside a digital learning resources or it is done before conducting a digital resources or digital learning resources, we can still conclude that simulations play an important role in creating an effective digital learning resources. Let's now proceed to animations. Learners are encouraged to explore complex dimensions of knowledge by watching animated educational videos. The student's skill set is honed. Animations can be used to make presentations more engaging. Lessons can be told in the form of a story which aids comprehension. Therefore, it helps in creating or giving better understanding of what the topic is all about. The last digitally formatted resources is the prepared or programmed learning modules. This one is self-explanatory already, since from the name itself, prepared or programmed learning modules, this will be the content of the digital learning resources that will be presented by the teacher or a presenter in front of the class or in front of the learners. Now we move on to the advantage of digital learning resources. The first advantage is that interactive resources can provide students with feedback. So remember the communication cycle? Feedback is in the last part. Therefore, digital resources allows communication to run smoothly inside a classroom. There is an exchange of knowledge between the students and the teachers. Now let's move to the second advantage. Digital resources can create a varied learning experience. From what I have discussed earlier about digitally formatted resources, which are the graphics, photos, or images, audio, simulations, animations, prepared or programmed learning modules, they can be used to extend the knowledge that we currently have, which is of course discussed by our teachers or the presenters. So those digitally formatted resources could be a way or a bridge in order to add our knowledge, in order for us to learn more of what we currently know. For the third advantage, we have the digital resources are flexible. The student can pause, fast forward, or rewind them, reflecting their own preferences. So, by the word flexible, therefore it is adjustable, or how we prefer using it is allowed. For example, sometimes there are instances when our teachers are discussing too fast. Like we often cannot understand some of the words that they are using or some phrases that they would like us to understand. Now, through the use of digital learning resources, especially in this online class, we can pause, fast forward, or rewind those words that we have not yet understood. And by that, we can have a better understanding of the topic. Now, the fourth digital resources advantage is that digital resources are asynchronous. The learner can access them at any time, not just in the classroom. Somehow, this advantage is related to the third one, which is the flexibility of digital resources. Since asynchronous, we are all familiar with this word, right? Especially in this setup of ours right now in the midst of the pandemic, wherein our classes is through online. And there are two options, the synchronous and the asynchronous, and what we have now is the asynchronous. Therefore, there are subjects or there are activities that will be posted in the classroom that can be accessible in any time of the day, as long as you do not pass the deadline, of course. Which is an advantage to us students. For the fifth advantage, it has never been easier to locate digital resources on diverse topics and to share them in a course. Meaning, before digital learning resources have existed, it was hard to locate. It was hard to locate them. It was hard to be involved in diverse topics and share them in a course. However, when they have already existed, the process of creating a digital learning resources have been a lot easier than before. The process of learning has been easier than before. The last but not the least advantage, we have some concepts are more powerfully learned from a video, seeing an artwork, observing a dance, illustrating an abstract concept. There is a theory from Albert Bandura wherein he stated that humans learn through observation and imitation. Therefore, if we observe a video from a digital learning resources, there is a possibility that we are able to perform what is being shown in the video. Therefore, learning is available if we observe and imitate what are the contents of a digital learning resources. Now, there are two sides of a coin. If we have the advantage, of course, we also have the disadvantage. The first disadvantage of digital learning resources is that interactive resources can be more expensive to license or create. Yes, some apps or some softwares requires payment in order for you to be able to access them. Thus, if you do not have the budget to open an account, you would not be able to use them for creating a digital learning resources. The second disadvantage is digital resources can take longer to review than, say, a text which can be quickly skimmed. Unlike other learning resources such as books or actual copies of the topic that is given by our teachers or the presenters, wherein we can manually put a highlighter or skim towards the part that we want to focus, digital learning resources takes a lot of effort in reviewing. You need to install an app that would function the way you want to. Such as if you want to put an highlighter, you need to download an app that would allow you to put highlight on a PDF. In my case, I use an ebook reader that has a feature of a highlighter inside it. However, it takes a lot of time. Let's move to the third disadvantage of digital learning resources. Video clips can degrade over time unless they are saved in specific formats that require particular software. Again, the video clips that we use or attach inside the digital learning resources that we made can degrade over time. I mean, its quality could go low if they are not saved in a proper format that would retain its quality. Therefore, instead of having it in HD, there is a great possibility wherein the quality is a lot far from the first quality that we have enjoyed. We are now on the last list of the disadvantages of digital learning resources. Technology problems and the need for expensive equipment may inhibit students' access. I bet we all encounter technology problems, especially in this online class. Even I have encountered a lot of technology problems during discussions, quizzes, or submitting an activity. It is because some of us, or most of us, cannot afford to buy an expensive equipment that would allow us to have a smooth sailing of access towards the apps, softwares, or websites that is needed for the current class. And that, of course, is a disadvantage in the learning process. Due to those technology problems, there are times when we cannot enter a class. Thus, we cannot learn for that day about the topic that the teacher is talking about. And there are also times when submitting an activity is harder for us to do since the internet connection is not stable. Thus, it lowers the score or our grades. And that causes a lot of stress to us students, especially if we want to maintain good grades. We are done of the advantage and disadvantage of digital resources or digital learning resources. We will now move to the selecting of digital learning resources. So in selecting an effective digital learning resources, we must consider these 4 categories that I am presenting. First is the copyright. You must ensure that you are not violating copyright law. Music and movies are well monitored by their owners. Talk with your resource officer or librarian to learn how to use media appropriately. And make sure you purchase the appropriate rights. For example, group as opposed to home viewing. The second one is the pedagogic value. Just showing a movie or image isn't teaching. You need to provide the students with an explanation of the purpose of the media and direct their attention to what is important and how it connects with what they are studying. A follow-up discussion helps them consolidate their learning. Third category to be considered is the production values. Is the quality of the resource appropriate? Before deciding whether or not to select it for your course, consider whether or not the quality of the images and sound are sufficient and whether you think the clip has been well enough edited. The last category that you need to consider is the format. Now I have a question which will help you know whether the format you are using is a proper one. So the question is, how will students access the resource? Is it via computer, via an MP3 player, on their phones? Therefore, make sure that the format in which the resource is available caters to all the mediums you expect your students to use. So I am done with my part and allow me to pass you to the next reporter. Thank you.
Five types of digital learning resources. First, we have simulation. Simulation is a kind of resources aid teacher explanation and allows learners to test out your ideas and experiment. For an example, SurveyMonkey allows people to create, edit, gather responses, and analyze results on your smartphone or tablet. It was founded in 1999 by Ryan and Chris Fenley. Second, we have animation. This can demonstrate processes which are difficult to describe or show into 2 dimensions. Example, Tintastic, a digital storytelling tool that teaches kids how to organize and present story ideas through cartoons. It employs a story arc that contains 5 sequential scenes to guide story structure. These are setup, conflict, challenge, climax, and resolution, created by Andy Russell on 2011. Third, we have quiz. This allows learners to test their own understanding and gain feedback promptly. TASMOS, an online quiz maker which can be used to make completely customized tests for your students. This application is designed by Matt Johnson, an undergraduate student at Washington State University. Vancouver since August of 2000. Next, we have electronic textbook. Google Docs is the best example. A free web-based application which a user can use to create documents and spreadsheets. It was created on March 9, 2006 by Sam Klinies. Lastly, number 5, Learning Object. This resource has been designed to meet specified learning outcomes and can be incorporated into and reused in a range of learning materials. The best example is Google Classroom, what we are using now. A free service for schools, non-profits, and anyone with a personal Google account. Classroom make it easy for learners and instructors to connect inside and outside of school. Classroom saves time and paper and make it easy to create classes, distribute assignments, communicate, and stay organized. It is created by Mr. Jonathan Rochelle on August 2014.
Hi everyone, good day. I am Marisol Salomon together with Joy Maria Liba, and for today we are going to discuss about conventional learning resources, learning flip charts, Relaya, and others. So without further ado, let's start. Alright, so at the end of today's lesson, students should be able to know what is the conventional learning resources, the difference between conventional and digital learning resources, know what is the importance of conventional learning resources, the different kinds of conventional learning resources, and of course, the usage, function, and other traditional aids in teaching. So before we start, I want to share my favorite quote by William Arthur Ward. Okay, so as per William, the mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspire. So meaning to say, ang kasarangan nga magtutudlo nagsulti, ang maayo nga magtutudlo nagpatinaw, ang labaw nga magtutudlo nagpakita, ug ang bantugan nga magtutudlo nagdasig. So very on point kaayo, no? Very inspiring kaayo, diba? Anyway, let's move on to the next slide, okay? Alright. So did you know that conventional learning resources, also known as non-digital or traditional learning resources, plays an important role in the world of teaching? Before the founding of technology or e-learning, teachers and educators are using traditional teaching aids or method in sharing knowledge and developing thinking skills for those who are willing to learn. Okay? So, sa unang panahon, kanidi ay conventional learning resources or ang gitawag na traditional learning. Way back pa ni siya, sa una pang panahon, like way back 21st century maybe, pa ni siya, gigamit na sa atuang mga kanununuan, our ancestors. So before pa na-imbento ang technology like mga computers, calculator, and some stuff using technology or e-learning, ang mga magtutudlo nigamit na ni sila og traditional teaching aids sa unang panahon para ma-develop or para i-mold ang mga gustong makakaton para ma-improve ang ilahang kaugalingong panghuna-huna ug ilahang kahibaluan or ang mga ilaha pang gustong mahibalaan. So did you know that the decree of education in 1863 established the first ever educational system in the Philippines? So way back 1863 na-establish ang kinaunahang educational system diri sa Philippines or sa Pilipinas. It required a government to provide school institutions for boys and girls in every town. Okay, and then given the situation, the Spanish schools started accepting Filipino students. It was during this time that the intellectual Filipinos emerged. Okay, so sa unang panahon, okay, pagka-established sa educational system way back 1863 sa Pilipinas, ang gobyerno naghatag og eskwelahan para sa mga babae o lalaki sa kada lungsod diri sa Pilipinas. And then, ang mga Spanish schools pod, ing sugod na sila dawat og mga Filipino students para sa ilahang mga schools nga gipangtukod as well. So, nagtapo na ang mga Filipino o Spanish nga estudyante nga ganahang makakatpon sa unang panahon. Okay, so this also brought about the establishment of the normal schools, which gave more opportunity to the Filipino to attain a sound education. The normal schools offered a 3-year teacher education at the primary level. Okay, the medium of instruction used was Alibata, the native alphabet. So the educator or the teachers during the pre-colonial era were the Babaylan and the Catalonan. Okay? So, nagdala usab kini sa pagtukod sa normal schools nga naghatag og dugang kahigayunan sa mga Pilipino nga makaangkon og maayong edukasyon. Okay? So, ang mga eskwelahan sa una nga nagtanyag og 3 ka tuig nga edukasyon nga nang sa una ding panahon, no? 3 ka tuig raman di ay, no? Ang edukasyon nga nanguna sa magtutudlo sa elementary, tuyawan, no? 3 years sa elementarya. Unya, ang gigamit nga medium sa pagtudlo nila kay ang gitawag nga alibata, kanang makita nimo sa kilid sa slide sa right side o nagatubang ka, okay, sa PowerPoint presentation. So nasiya sa right side na ako'y i-attach ng image diha. Mao na siya gitawag nga alibata. So mauni siya ang lumad nga alpabeto. Unya, sa una pod ang mga magtutudlo o mga nagtudlo sa panahon sa wala pa ang kolonyal nga panahon, mao ang mga Babaylan o Catalonan. Okay, so gifted with wisdom and knowledge on spirituality and the system of running their own society, they were respected by the people of the society. Therefore, the type of education that was taught was one of beliefs and traditions. Okay, so gihatagan og kaalaman og hibalo bahin sa pagka-espirituhanon ug sa sistema sa pagpadagan sa ilang kaugalingon nga katilingban. So sila gihatod sa mga tao sa katilingban busa ang matang sa edukasyon nga gitudlo mao ang usa sa mga pagtuo sa tradition or tradisyon sa mga Pilipino. Nya, however, or bisan pa, okay, bisan pa nga naay sila pagkulang kay nakabutang however, since there was insufficient scientific learning, they lack efficient means of economic production. So bisan pa tungod kay kulang ang scientificanhong pagkat-on, kulang sila sa sa specialized nga paagi sa production sa ekonomiya, gitagaan gihapon nila og importansya ang edukasyon. So, ang mga Pilipino sa unang panahon, no, value kaayo nila. Value means gitagaan nila importansya ang edukasyon sa every Filipino, sa mga early Filipino sa una. Hangtod karon, we give importance to our education because using these will serve as our own knowledge in the long run. So, ato aning kaugalingong achievement, no? Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so as you can see, there is a question here stating what is conventional learning resources. So conventional learning involves a teacher, a brick and mortar facility, usually a school, and a group of students that gather together at this facility during a specific period of the day to learn from the teachers, of course. It may also include paper-based assignments and exam. Okay, so a classroom will always need a chalkboard or a writing board that may come in varied forms and shapes. So bulletin boards, flip charts, dioramas, puppets, terrarium, and the like will always find their significance in any classroom. Now, the teachers needs instructional materials to enhance teaching and learning. Instructional materials are defined as print and non-print items that are rested to impact information to students into educational process of Feng and Iguri 2015 are the references. Anyways, examples of instructional materials are drawings, kids textbooks, posters, magazines, flip chart, newspapers, diorama, pictures, recording, videos, and like. Okay, so instructional materials have several roles in teaching and learning, which include the following. First, they promote meaningful communication and effective learning, meaning to say, ilang gipasiugda ang makahuluganon nga komunikasyon o epektibo nga pagkatun. Second, they ensure better retention, thus making learning more permanent. So, ilang gisiguro ang mas maayong pagpabilin sa ingon naghimo sa pagkatun nga permanente. Okay? So, number 3 or the third one, they help to overcome the limited classroom by making the inaccessible accessible. Okay? So, makatabang sila sa pagbuntog sa limitado nga lawak klasihanan. So, pinaagi sa paghimo sa dili ma-access nga ma-accessible na siya. So, sa dili ma-access, so, mahimo na siyang accessible. Fourth, they provide a common experience upon which late learning can be developed. Okay? So, kini naghatag og common nga kasinatian. Diin ang ulahi nga pagkat-on mahimong maugmad. Okay. Now, the fifth one is they encourage participation, especially if students are allowed to manipulate materials used, and instructional materials are the supplementary materials which help the teacher to make his or her presentation concrete, effective, interesting, meaningful, and aspiring. Instructional materials are a great help in stimulating and facilitating the learning of the learners. Okay, so gidasig nila ang pag-apil, ilabi na kung ang mga estudyante gitugutan sa pagmaniobra sa mga materyales nga gigamit. Okay? So, ang mga materyales sa pagtudlo mao ang mga suplemento nga materyales. Mga makatabang sa magtutudlo sa paghimo sa iyahang presentasyon nga mahimo kining kuan, konkreto, epektibo, makapaikag, makahuluganon ug matinguhaon. Okay? So, sabot ra man siguro tanan no, laom gadjud kaayo niyang Bisaya pero sabot ra jud ginoon. No? Ang mga materyales sa pagtudlo dako nga tabang sa pagdasig ug pagpadali sa pagkat-on sa mga estudyante. Of course, no? Kinahanglan gyud ang magtutudlo madiskarte sa pagtudlo sa iyahang mga estudyante nga makakat-on sila o dali sila makakatch up, in other words. Okay? Alright, so let's move on to the next slide. Diorama. It will make the classroom to be creative and innovative. It is a fun way to build an exciting scene, a small space. Dioramas are small scenes created of layers of materials, all depicting a similar concept or theme. They usually display a historical time period, a nature scene, or a fictional situation. So, ang diorama daw kinin maghimo sa classroom nga mahimong mamugnaon og makabag-o. And then kini mao ang usa ka makalingaw nga paagi sa pagtukod sa usa ka classroom nga tan-awonon sa usa ka estudyante nga naas sa gamay nga luna. So ang diorama mao igagmay nga mga tanawonon nga gihimo sa mga lutod sa mga lutod nga mga materyales rather. Ang tanan nga naghulagway sa mga konsepto or tema, ang kasagaran sila nagpakita sa usa ka makasaysayanon nga yugto sa panahon ug usa katan-awon sa kinaiyahan o usa ka dili tinuod nga sitwasyon, kanang imagination ra ba or imaginary lang nga sitwasyon. So just like an example. Okay, so according to Wright, in 1976, as cited in Kakir 2006, many media and many styles of visual presentations are useful to the language learner. All audiovisual materials have positive contributions to language learning as long as they are used at the right time and in the right place. So in the teaching and learning process, learners use their eyes as well as their ears, but their eyes are basic in learning. So sumala ni Wright nga gikutlo sa Kakir 2006, daghan kunong media og daghang mga estilo sa visual nga presentasyon ang mapuslanon sa tikat-on sa pinulungan. Okay? Ang tanan nga audiovisual nga mga material or materyales adunay positibo nga contribution sa pagkat-on sa pinulungan, basta kini gigamit sa husto nga oras ug sa hustong lugar. Okay, sa proseso sa pagtudlo sa pagkat-on, ang mga estudyante nagamit sa ilang mga mata, ingon man ang ilong, mga dalunggan apan ang ilang mga mata sukaran sa pagkat-on. Okay. So, advantages of diorama. Dioramas can be used throughout all levels of education. They pinpoint a moment of learning and show deeper levels of understanding. Dioramas can also be used in a real-world settings as problem solvers. Overall, dioramas are a fun, creative way to create a three-dimensional project. So, ang disadvantages of diorama: barriers in developing learning resource material, lack of systematic program planning in large scale, low budget allocation, inadequate training for teachers and facilitator, selection system of teachers, community mobilization plans for resource generation at the local level. Nature table. This is a table that contains objects and or scenes related to the current season or upcoming festival or a symbol of an ecosystem. Children love to follow the natural changes that the world offers each month, and classroom decorations reflect these. Alright, so number 2, nature table. This is a table that contains objects and or scenes related to the current season or upcoming festival or a symbol of an ecosystem. Children love to follow the natural changes that the world offers each month, and classroom decorations reflect these. So, bot pasabot, kini usa ka lamisa nga adunay mga butang kanang nasa kilid bitaw nga picture, hulagway, o mga talan-awunon or mga tan-awunon nga mga kalabutan sa ang na ay kanang kuan ba na ay in connection or kalabutan sa Bisaya sa karon nga panahon, and then or either umaabot nga kapistahan or simbolo sa usa ka ecosystem. So gusto sa mga bata nga sundon ang natural nga mga pagbag-o o gitanyag sa kalibutanon matagbulan or sa kalibutan matagbulan, ug ang mga dekorasyon sa klase nagpakita niini. Okay? So mo reflect gyud uno kung unsay makita sa bata mao say ilahang sundugon. Okay? Okay, so number 3, writing board. A writing board can display information written with chalk. It's either chalkboard or blackboard, or special pens like whiteboard. Although there are usually more effective methods of transmitting information, the writing board is still the most commonly used visual aid. So ang usa ka writing board mahimong magpakita sa impormasyon nga gisulat uban sa chalk dito sa pisara, or special nga mga pen sa like whiteboard sa pamaagi isuwat nimo dito sa whiteboard. Bisan adunay kasagaran mas epektibo nga mga paagi sa pagpasa og impormasyon or pagsulat sa impormasyon aron ang imong estudyante makakat-on, ang writing board o gihapon ang pinakadaghan or kasagaran ginagamit sa mga maestra or maestro sa paghatag or kanang deliver or paggamit sa visual aid. Okay? Adunay advantages and disadvantages ang writing board. So, ang writing information and ideas on a whiteboard frees user from having to remember important information. So, kay gisuwat man nimo ang kanang information or information sa writing board, less nimo siya nga mas makalimtan. So, dali ra nimo siya mahinumduman ba? Okay, nakasuwat naman siya na sa whiteboard. And then ang mga importante pod nga mga kinahanglanon nakasuwat. So dili jud nimo like makuan jud nimo ba nga makahinumdum jud ka ining kakita nimo sa whiteboard, uy naaman day diha ang mga kinahanglan akong buhaton. So displaying information helps create shared group knowledge. Portable whiteboards make it easy for 2 or 3 users to jot down thoughts, draw correlation, and build on each other's ideas. So, pwede siya magamit sa bisang kinsa, no? Maybe 1, 2, 3 kanang people could share a writing board for you to be able to share knowledge. Pwede siya by group, no? Pwede po siya nga naay isa or duha, pwede nga musuwat ana nga writing board kay para kuan ba makahibaw sila kung unsay angay nga buhaton, makashare sila mga ideas, ilahang mga kanang thoughts o na mangani mga corrections, at least diba makorek na nila ug by group sila. And then ang writing board na asad ni disadvantages. Okay, so ang disadvantages of writing board is first, odor. The scratching of chalk against the chalkboard can make students' hair stand on end, but chalk has no odor. Okay? So, ang baho kuno sa chalk. Okay. So, kay ang estudyante nagamit man sa chalk dito sa writing board or sa blackboard ba na or whiteboard, na possibility nga ang chalk na ako ni odor. But sa akong experience, ang chalk wala may odor. Ang kuan lang, ang diferensya lang yun sa chalk, no? Kay ug maghawid tag chalk, ang iyahang kanabitang color niya kanang puti or either kanang na yellow nga cover, inigkutkut nimo sa imong ulo, no? Mupilit ang color niya sa chalk. So magka-chalk na noon ka, magkaputi-puti imuhang buhok. Either way, dili lang buhok, pati sinina kanang labi magsayal ka kanang navy blue nga sayal or either something nga dark nga color nga sinina. Sus, kung ipahid mo imuhang kuan diha, magka pantal-pantal jud ang color, no, sa chalk. Anyways, number 2 is glare. White print against a dark surface makes chalkboards easier to read and expense, of course. Okay, so kay mo palit man tag chalk, so kina na jud tay kapalit, no. Anyway, makagasto jud ta, no, kay ang chalk na may value. Okay, so mao na siya mga disadvantages of writing board. Okay, so number 4, flip chart. It is a large tablet or pad of paper, usually on a tripod or a stand. Meaning to say, kini usa ka dako nga tablet or pad sa papel kasagaran sa usa ka tripod or usa ka stand siya. gi butang. Stand ba kanang butanganan o kanang kabantay mo ana ang mag painting naman ay stand no. So nga na pud siya ang flip chart. Pwede ginabutang sa na it's either pwede nimo siyang i-hand or ikaw ray maghawid nga mag-flip lang ka o pwede sa nimo ibutang sa stand. Okay? Nga igo ra nimo paklion, di ba? So ang flip chart of course na po siya yung mga disadvantages or advantages. So advantages ta una, ang flip chart or flip charts are economical. So what pasabot kuan eco-friendly siya. Okay? So biodegradable, pwede ra ug di na kaganahan or either nabasa baron ma-reuse ra siya, recyclable ba. Okay? So pwede ipataba sa kuan yuta. Anyway, let's move on. So flip charts are economical. They do not require you to use any special films or printers to produce them. Okay, color can be added very easily, and of course, inexpensive box of flip chart markers allows you all the creativity you want. So, buhat ra kag bisag unsa ng flip chart no. Bahalag unsay design imong ganahan kay imuha man na no. Anyway, ang flip chart ko no, gawas sa eco-friendly siya. Dili pug ka magkinahanglan nga mogamit og bisan unsa special nga mga pelikula or kanang printer ba o kanang sa paghimo niini. Okay. Pwede ra man ka maggamit og pang color like crayon nga na gamit ra ka og lapis nga pwede nimo subatan imong designan o di fights na, di ba? Okay. So ang flip chart pod kay nagtugot sa spontaneity. So, ang bisang unsang katapusang minuto nga mga pagbag-o, mahimo ra nimo nga mabag-o dayon-dayon kay pwede ra man nimo i-erase. Okay? Dali ra nimo mabuhat kung naa kay mga changes. Ang disadvantages lang ani niya is that they can be used with small classes only. So, gamay ra nga estudyante ang kaya niya nga. Ang maximum niya is 30. So, dili siya kuan kaayo no, broad nga pwede sa kadaghanan kay limited ra ang iyahang maokupar nga makakita sa flip chart. And then good lettering is needed because otherwise they are hard to read. So kinahanglan pud no nga nindot po tawag penmanship ug mo gamit maganita og flip chart kay na maski basig dinoktor niya to ang pagsuwat di. Syempre ang mga estudyante dili pud no kabasa no. Di nila maibalan kung sa nakasulat sa flip chart. And then, they are not permanent since cheap flip chart paper made out of newsprint tears easily. So, pwede siyang magisi dali. Okay? Okay. Kuan raman ni siya, recycle ra ba? Okay? Alright, so, next slide. I will be going to report by Miss Joy Maria Liba. Okay? So, Joy?
Good morning once again to our dear advisor, Sir Jesse Alde, and to my fellow students, my co-classmates. Good morning. So, for continuation of Miss Maricel Salomon's report, I have here number 5, the zigzag board. So, it is a multi-board series of 3 or 4 rectangular boards. They are joined together along the sides by hinges so that they can be easily folded up and carried. Usually, we can see this kind of the conventional learning resources. The zigzag board, we can practically see it in we have in kindergarten, in elementary level. It is because it is very much convenient or useful also in discussing the topics that the teachers wants to deliver to everyone or to the students. Among the conventional learning resources used, I can say, in my opinion also, that zigzag board is inconvenient during face-to-face class discussion. It is because, let me use this word in Bisaya, kote. Diba? I know when we observe or experience or have this kind of conventional learning resources, this zigzag board, kote kaayo siya. It is because there's a lot of like the multi-board, the series, we need to connect them together. We have the 4 rectangular boards, we need to join together along the sides or fold siya. And then if we have only area nga gamay kay nga area in front of the class, for the advantages of zigzag board, we have the magic of zigzag board lies in the ability to initiate meetings from the app, enabling others to join in from their desktop browser. Those participants will see the whiteboard and observe changes in real time. So in zigzag board, nindot siya gamiton if online or the virtual discussion. It is because we can only put this on the PPT or the PowerPoint presentation that the teachers prepared, or you as a students nga mo report. Next is number 6, we have wall display. So displaying items on a classroom wall is a well-known, tried and tested educational method. A wall display is a collection of many different types of items and materials put up on a wall to make an interesting and informative display. Usually, ang wall display is makita na to siya or pwede na to siya magamit nga method or the design itself sa mga bulletin boards to catch the attention of the students. Also, if you are going to put any information or reminders to every students or to everyone, so it is very convenient also, or should I say convenient in a way nga you are creative, but to those nga tapulanon kayo magama ani nga wall display, so kutisad siya or something like inconvenient also sa part sa uban nga kanang dili kay creative, dili kay sila hanas with regards to the design, with regards in designing the bulletin board or using this kind of resources or the conventional learning resources that they have. In classroom, the display can consist of the student's own work. In development work, it can be used to convey information to the community. So as what I've said a while ago, it is very useful or dali ra makatch ang attention sa mga students. Samot nagmakita nila nga, wow, it's colorful, usa kahay another information nga ihatag sa teachers regarding sa the plan or ways or naabay holidays or the activities, upcoming activities nga buhaton. Next is we have the advantages and disadvantages of wall display. So for the advantages of wall display, so it is evolving wall displays help students keep track of what they have learned and help them make connections and develop coherency between ideas, tasks, and lessons. So ang nakanindot sa wall display is magamit siya or so the develop or the coherency between ideas and tasks and lessons. So if you are creative person, you can use this or very advantages ang nakanindot ani niya is kanang ma-learn or mapagawas ang imong pagka-creative as a student or as a teacher. So in this disadvantages of wall display, like what I've said ganina nga, it is, or should I say, I will use again this term, this Bisaya term, kuti siya. It is because we need to mag-cut pa ta og mga different colors, mag-cut pa ta designs para ipatapot sa mga bulletin boards. Mao ni siya naka-disadvantages. So, displaying work on the wall can leave some children feeling as though they're not as good as other students. Or there's a tendency also na if the students or both, if mag-group ka sa imuhang mga estudyante na ay gitawag og competition nga ilahang i-compare ang ilahang works sa ani or mali or dako ang points sa PICAS, it is because nindot ang ilahang gigama unya ang diri sa PICAS is dili. So there's a kanang gitawag og bias. It is because they have the different impacts or the creation nga ilang gigama, ang creativity itself is mag-reflect kung unsa kanindot ang ilang gigama. That's why there's bias also. Kay teachers also as a teacher, he or she needs to choose kung asay nindot gid pod. So equally, students might get distracted by the boards around the room, leading them to fall behind in certain lessons. So for guidelines when designing conventional instructional materials, first, in order nga ang imuhang design is nindot unya simple ra kayo siya unya dili convenient siya sa paggama or dili kote. First, we have unity. Use only one idea for each visual aid. Include a headline. So, mag-conflict siya or pangit na ang iyang result kung walay unity sa pag-create nimo sa usa ka method or the instructional materials, conventional instructional materials nga imong buhaton. Next is we have the simplicity. We should always remember na simplicity is beauty or beauty is simplicity. So make ideas and relationships simply and easy to recall. Kanang dali ra kayo ma-recall ba nga, dali ra kayo mahinumduman, ma-memorize sa mga students ang imuhang gidiscuss. It is because the simplicity itself, makita nimo nga neat siya and then simple ra kay siya nga design pero elegant. Next is number 3, the legibility. Make letters big and readable for all in the audience. So, in this area, we should always remember or we should always put this in our mind nga kung maghimo ta og PPT or maghimo ta og the conventional instructional materials for the discussion, it is very important to make every letters, every words big sa pag-lettering. It is because para makita sa mga students, labi na sa naa sa likod nga galingkod ang imuhang mga students. Number 4 is the consistency. Use the same type, style, and art style. So, never use any font style like you are using Times New Roman in this area, in this part. Unya magamit na sad ka og Arial ani nga part or magkaano siya magkalibog. It is because you need to use, dapat consistent ka sa mga butang. You need to be consistent kung unsay imong gigamit, mao sad imong gamiton to avoid any confusion to the students. So lastly, the clarity. Avoid type that is too small to read. Avoid all caps. So we need to use it, we need to apply it to make this conventional instructional materials that you have prepared or that you prepare to everyone nga concise siya and very effective ug dali ra ma-catch up sa mga students. So that's all sa among report sa part namo ni Miss Maricel Salomon. God bless and keep safe.
What is distance learning? Distance learning is the way of educating students online Lectures and learning materials are sent over the internet. Students work from home, not in the classroom. Teacher and student are in different locations. This is a method of study where teachers and students do not meet in a classroom but use the internet to have classes. Our situation now because of pandemic due to the coronavirus, distance learning, typically a style of teaching utilized by colleges and universities, is now being adopted by elementary and high school students as well. Distance learning falls in two main categories. First, synchronous. Synchronous means at the same time. It refers to a method of education delivery that happens in real time. It refers live communication online. It uses technology such as teleconferencing to achieve this. It means when all the students learn together at the same time and often even place, but the instructor is at another location. It often features video or teleconferencing that connects teachers and learners digitally. Second, asynchronous. Asynchronous typically means not at the same time. In this regard, it is type of learning that has strict set deadlines, often a weekly time limit. However, it allows learners to learn at their own pace. It means a less connected but also less constrained format. Instead of live online lessons, students are given learning tasks with deadlines. They then self-study to complete the assignments. The four types of distance learning fall under the categories either synchronous or asynchronous. First, video conferencing. Video conferencing is traditionally a meeting where two or more participants use video to connect over the internet. This is a form of synchronous communication. Using tools like Zoom, Blackboard Collaborate, Adobe Connect, or other conferencing software, teacher and students interact together no matter where they are located. It's a common way for a teacher to interact directly with students in live lessons. This could be a one-on-one session or a class-like scenario in which multiple students connect to the teacher live. Third, hybrid distance learning. Hybrid courses combine synchronous and asynchronous learning to create structure in which the student is required to meet at a specific time in a classroom or internet chat room. However, they are allowed to complete assignments on their own time and may pass them in through online forum. Students receive deadlines to complete assignments and exams. Then, they work at their own pace. They submit assignments through online forums. They maintain contact with their instructor. This option is sometimes offered when a university lacks adequate space to accommodate all their course loads. Third, open schedule online courses. This is an asynchronous form of learning in which students are provided internet-based textbooks, mailing lists, email, and bulletin boards to complete their coursework. At the beginning of classes, the student is provided a set of deadlines but is allowed to work at their own pace as long as the work is turned in by the deadline. With open schedule online courses, students are allotted the greatest amount of freedom. This type of learning is great for students who work well independently and those who do not procrastinate. And last but not the least, fixed time online courses. The most common type of distance learning today is fixed time courses. As the title states, these courses are strictly online, but students are required to log in to their online learning site at a specific time. Although they are completely online, the format remains synchronous because mandatory live chats are often required. This type of synchronous course that requires online users to all visit a specific virtual location at a safe time and place. Fixed time online courses encourage student interaction, but there is little room for self-pacing.
Good day, everyone. So before I go further, let me introduce myself. I am Alma Miss Mishona, taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. So now I am going to present my report, and it is all about the asynchronous and synchronous distance learning. So since we are having a pandemic, we cannot really talk in personally, or which we called face-to-face. We could only talk in the phone or in the messenger or through the online. So I guess that this topic is very familiar to us. Synchronous distance learning. So, as we all know, synchronous means at the same time. In this context, it is learning that involves live communication through either chatting online, sitting in a classroom, or even teleconference. So, synchronous learning means that although you will be learning from a distance, you will virtually attend a class session each week at the same time as your instructor and classmates. The class is a firm, weekly time commitment that cannot be rescheduled. Much like an in-campus class, you will have readings and assignments to complete outside of class time to help prepare you to participate in the discussion. This kind of preparation from students, along with a dedicated agenda set by the instructor, ensures each class session is productive. And also, synchronous learning doesn't always just take the form of a live video lecture or an instructor discussion. Often, students will lead discussions themselves or give presentation to the rest of the class. So next is asynchronous distance learning. So typically means not at the same time. So asynchronous is type of learning that has a strict set of deadlines. Like the instructor will give you a due date with regards to your assessment or project that he given to you. So you have a time to work on it and study. So now we're going to proceed the disadvantage and advantages of synchronous distance learning. So we'll proceed to disadvantage of synchronous. So there are some students poor in social skills, some are in the time barriers, or internet connection. So, yung mga estudyante nga mag-listen sa ilang time or schedule sa ating klase. And then, kana kung we are poor in social skills, mawawon. And then, just pag kayo upuan, load. Madaghan po yung mga kuan, diba? Disadvantages when it comes sa sync And so, susunod is sa advantages. Sorry pong advantages synchronous and their opposite. Sa synchronous pod, ma-enhance learning by increasing your audience, motivation, levels, kanang pag halubilo sa laing or kanang classmates. So ma-enhance po ng imong and then makatalk pod ka sa iyong maestro or either ng classmate. Ka-open kasi ng opinion or ideas regarding sa inyong discussion. So next, proceed to the advantages and disadvantages of asynchronous distance learning. So disadvantages of asynchronous regarding sa course materials may be misunderstood or have the potential to be misconstrued without the real-time interaction, and students may feel less personal exchange and less satisfied without the social interaction between their peers and instructors. Then sa advantages, makakuan sila higher levels of temporal flexibility, and then it increases cognitive engagement since students will have more time to engage with and explore the course materials. So I think that would be all. There are disadvantages and advantages of synchronous and asynchronous distance learning.
Alright, now everyone, let us summarize what has been discussed throughout the video lesson. So, what have I learned in this educational journey? Let us do a recap. Technology or ICTs are very useful and beneficial to various content areas, caters for a variety of learning styles, and engage students. It also enhances both the teaching and learning process through providing advanced learning resources, making works for both teachers and learners easy and productive. In this technology-driven world, it is important that we equip ourselves with the necessary ICT knowledge. In this video lesson, we also tackled various digital learning resources such as Google Docs, SurveyMonkey, and many more. As said earlier, these materials support students' learning goals and teaching experiences. In this new normal, ICTs indeed are very effective in the classroom. Next, we have tackled conventional learning resources. These are materials that teachers used before the advent of ICTs, though digital resources outgrown conventional resources. These resources are still utilized today. We have Realia, flip charts, and diorama as examples. We have also covered distance learning in this video lesson. Again, this is a way of educating students without having it face-to-face. It has two types, the synchronous and the asynchronous. The major difference between the two is that synchronous requires live discussion in real time, while asynchronous is not, so students can really learn at their own pace. Distance learning is the mode of many schools today across the globe since the outbreak of this pandemic or COVID-19. We have learned that ICTs are essential in the classroom. how to integrate them, and explore different learning resources that can be available for use. Thus, teachers or learners must view themselves as constructivists and aim to create a learning environment where ICTs plays an integrated role. Alright students, we are all set up. We have accomplished another lesson, ICT in various content areas. Thank you for watching.